which is a really cool cannibal film by the guy who did Stakeland and Mulberry Street, both of which are really cool independent.
All you have to do is go to cinefamily.org, find the show on the calendar, and RSVP.
And you can bring your friends for free.
As long as they RSVP. That's the important part.
Or your invisible friends.
And unfortunately, we have nothing to officially announce, but we are cooking up a lot of interesting stuff for October, where we will hopefully be going crazy with tons of shows like we do every year. But let's get this party started for tonight, because we have two great guests for Pitch Black. One is writer-director David Twohy, and the other is cinematographer David Eggby.
Hi guys. I'm Twohy, he's Eggby. He's Australian.
And I just found out he shot the original Mad Max.
Not too shabby.
Not strictly a horror movie, so you won't be seeing it here.
Well, first of all, I want to ask, how many people have seen Pitch Black?
Yeah.
Okay, not everyone though, so we don't want to get too spoilery in our talk. But I guess as long as we're here for a horror movie thing, I'm a little interested to talk kind of building up to Pitch Black, because your first two screenwriting credits were Critters 2 and Warlock, right? You don't need to shake your head. They come
There's
to
no
Friday Night
shame
Friends.
here. We like Critters too.
That's the giant Critters ball that rolls over a guy and then he's all just bones.
Fucking awesome.
That was my invention. I've been slowly trying to drop it off my resume, but every once in a while it gets resurrected by stuff like this.
No way, you lead with that shit.
But look, Warlock was an original screenplay. It was my first sale. It was my first produced movie, and then I spent like 6 weeks writing on Critters, so I don't think that it's my movie, but Warlock I will take responsibility or credit for.
That was the first movie I met you on, because I
Yeah,
shot
David
it.
Eggby shot that too. Yeah.
So we go way back.
Yeah, that's where I met Eggby.
Cool, and then, I mean, how did you really transition then from directing? Because I know there's always lots of filmmakers in the audience, and they're interested in those kind of stories. Is your first directorial debut was the Jeff Daniels movie, Grand Tour: Disaster in Time, right?
Exactly.
Which is a movie. Who here has seen that? Because everyone should. It's a really cool. Was that a TV movie?
A rare bird. I shot it as a feature. It got released overseas as a feature, got picked up here as a Showtime original movie. They changed the title on me. My title was Grand Tour. It was based on a classic science fiction novella of the time. Really a nice, gentle piece of science fiction. And then Showtime kind of, like, I think they recut it and they put, like, Disaster in Time as the new title. So, and then overseas, it was released as Timescape. It was a mess in terms of its release, but it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, you guys should check it out. It's about, to sum it up really quickly, Jeff Daniels is running, it's like a bed and breakfast, right? And weird guests come, and he basically slowly realizes these people are time travelers who like to travel through time to witness horrible disasters. So it's like, oh shit, I feel like something bad maybe is going to happen to my town.
Yeah, it's like, okay, they were at the San Francisco earthquake, they were at the Hindenburg disaster in 38, New Jersey. So, well, what are they doing here now? You know? Well, they drop a few days ahead just to do a little shopping before the event.
And what do they do with it? They just like to watch it.
Yeah, they're disaster groupies.
And then he also wrote The Fugitive, a very excellent movie. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Waterworld, which is a movie I happen to like. So I feel it got a bad rep because of the budget, but how do you feel about the movie personally?
I think it's a pretty good half of a movie. And then, yeah, I know what went on. It's basically just came in way too long. The studio was just worried about it on all levels, money, length, everything like that. So the first half, plugs along pretty nicely. The second half gets real choppy, and you can tell they were just like compressing it for time. The director got removed from his own editing room. Studio came in, recut it. So I see the results of that.
They also brought John Bruno in to redo all the visual effects.
Yeah, and they had visual effects problems as well, so they had to redo it. So, choppy, not an uneven movie, but at times, inspired.
Choppy waters. Waterworld.
And then you did The Arrival, which is guess my question is, so that movie was a decent hit. Did you feel that you should do another kind of sci-fi alien movies to follow it up? Is that where Pitch Black came from? Or?
From the arrival to, seems like there's something in between, but
Below was after Pitch Black, right?
Which was?
Below?
Yeah, Below, the submarine story was after Pitch Black. Yeah. That was a cool movie, one of my favorite.
Well, I guess just moving up to Pitch Black, I'm curious what the genesis of that, because it's an interesting movie because it kind of melds genres and it's like, it almost melds what you would think of as a traditional storylines together. I'm kind of curious, what was the seed idea that it grew from?
Well, actually, in the case of Pitch Black, it came to me as an existing screenplay called Nightfall, which was basically kind of a rip-off of the Isaac Asimov story of the same name. And it wasn't working. The company came to me and said, "Look, if you can make the screenplay work, we'll let you direct it." That was the game that they were playing with me back then. Yeah. So I said, "Sure, I'll take that challenge." And when I got the script, there was it was crash land on a planet, and people and creatures come out at night, and there you go. There was no Riddick. I had to bring that, together in my script, introduce Riddick in the script, and make the characters sort of unexpectedly deep, What I like about the movie you're about to see is that the characters that you think are the upright characters in the movie turn out not to be, and it sort of speaks to the inner spirit of people. Once you apply pressure from the outside, it's interesting to see what that pressure does to people. Some people rise to the occasion, some people just crack and fold. And that kind of pressure can reveal the true nature of people. So I like that not everybody is what they seem in this movie initially. And I like the unexpected depth of characters in a genre movie. That's what I try to do in all cases, even the last Riddick, which is in the theaters now.
And let's talk about the look of the film, because that was definitely something that struck me when I first saw it, especially because this movie kind of feels snuck up on people in the theaters. It had a cool trailer. No one really knew who Vin Diesel was at the time. He was the big guy who dies first in Saving Private Ryan. Spoiler alert.
You just ruined that movie.
It's devastating.
He mentioned me, and I said, "But you only lasted 3 minutes."
But then it was
if you listen to Vin at the time, he goes, like, "I'm starring with Tom Hanks in this new movie with Steven. Really? Wow." You go see the movie.
Had he already recorded his dialogue for the Iron Giant while you guys were shooting? He is the Iron Giant, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. I think that came after Pitch Black, yeah. We were talking about the look of Pitch Black?
Yeah. That was the end of my story. It looked cool.
Try to get a new look for a sci-fi film, and David came up with the idea of this process called bleach bypass. And I hadn't actually used the technique of bleach bypass. It had been used on films like Seven and I think another movie, but totally opposite to the way we wanted to use it. They did it to saturate the blacks. We did it to bleach out the highlights. And so David sort of came up with this idea, and I did a lot of testing and more testing and found out the best way to go about it. And it sort of worked. The producers were pulling their hair out because here we were with their trying to sort of shoot this movie with their original negative, and I suggested we do it on the original negative because in the past bleach bypass had been done on into positives or into negatives, and it didn't really work because if you do it on a whole roll, the main thing was to make it look different from the outside lunar landscape to the inside the spacecraft or the outpost. When they're inside, it should look real, except for the blue or the red light coming in. But on the landscape, it should look alien. So rather than bleach bypass the whole edited roll, so it meant the same effect would have been on the interiors, we decided to do it on the original negative, so it meant that we could select the exterior scenes as opposed to the interior scenes. And the interesting thing about it is, when you process negative, which obviously Pitch Black was on film, there are 3 bleaches that go through the process, and you can eliminate 1, 2, or 3 of those. We eliminated all 3 of the bleaches, which means that the areas that are normally removed in the process of the negative stay, and they're clumped, they're solid. So you get highlights and you get bleach out, and so the light doesn't get through when you print it, so you end up with blown out images. It was tricky. There's a little bit of a filter pack. The producers were pulling their hair out, and I remember about 3 weeks after we started testing, we actually took some of the negative from 3 weeks earlier and ran it through the process, the lab, and it nearly came back to its original condition, the way it should be. So in actual, it was a safety for the producers to know that if they needed to, they could go back to the original leg.
Let me distill what he just said. Let me translate what he said. Basically, we were fucking with the original camera negative, all right, which is the most valuable thing on any movie that shoots on film, right? We were fucking with it in a very experimental way. And the studio was, if they knew about the studio, they probably wouldn't have allowed us, but since we were in Australia, they were in Los Angeles, they were undergoing financial trouble at the time, and they had other things to worry about, we just fucking did it.
And here we are in the middle of Australia, a place called Cooper Beatty with our double head projection system, and I'm watching the dailies come in, and I'm thinking, this is the end of my career. and until that movie, I didn't have any white hair. It was just, I thought this is the end of it, because we were getting these weird images, and you've seen the movie, it wasn't the norm, but the fact is it worked. And the irony was that when we were at Cooper Beatty, in the outback, it was overcast and raining, and it was flat light, and if we had just put filters in front of the camera, it would have looked horrible. So in actual fact, the bleach bypassing was a plus. It made it work really well.
We did shoot in Australia, the outback of Australia, deep outback, a place called Cooper Pedy, an opal mining town. One theater in the town. Such a frontier kind of town that when you go into the theater, instead of saying, please turn off your cell phones, it's like, please, no explosives in the theater. They say that and they mean it on the screen.
I think it's like a 40-to-1 male to female ratio, and there was about 30 different nationalities, and it's a pretty tough town.
Yeah. You live underground. So hot this summer that you have to live underground. And we had our choice. We were there in their summer, which is the cold seasons, but we had our choice of above ground hotels or below ground hotels. And some people could handle below ground because it's really, here's how they cut out a house. They bring up like a backhoe, and they just say, okay, where do you want the living room? Into the side of a hill, and you're right there, and you go, bum, bum, bum. And they carve walls out until you get a square, and that's your living room. Where do you want the bedroom? This way. And you carve up, and it's just rock walls. It's just, and you see the claw marks from the backhoe. That's a living room. And those are the hotel rooms.
I was going to say, what was your hotel like?
It's just that. It's a rock wall with claw marks, and it looks like somebody gouged it out with their fingers. And some people can handle that because at night you turn off the lights, and it is truly pitch black. And some people can handle that, and some people can't.
And I think we spent about 3 weeks at Cooper Beatty, and the rest of the time was on stage in Queensland, near Brisbane. And for me, it was look. I've won more accolades of Pitch Black than any other movie I've worked on, and I'm very proud of the film. And David gave me the opportunity to do something different, which I appreciate. The interesting thing is that it's you take those risks, and by taking the risks, it paid off. And for me, it was like a cinematographer's lighting masterclass, because we start with 2 suns, 24-hour brightness, bleached, and then we go from that to optic fibres, and then we go to bottles full of whiskey, Molotov cocktails, to bottles full of glowworm juice. So really, for a cinematographer, it's quite a challenge. And it was good. I really enjoyed it. It was a great experience. Tough, but interesting.
I'll talk a little bit about the casting. Like, how did you even find? Describe meeting Vin Diesel, because he's a strange person.
Here's a stranger one. They wanted me to. We were having trouble casting the movie, and kind of to save the movie and get it going, and to please the studio, you had to come up with some kind of name. So they said, all right, we came up with a name, we've already talked to him, we've run it by his agent, he wants to do the movie, he wants to meet you. I said, okay, tell me who it is. He said, Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal is Riddick. I don't think he is. I don't want to do a Steven Seagal movie. And they go, no, you have to, or we're going to shut down production. It's the only way to go. It's the only name that makes sense anymore. So, I don't want to do Steven Seagal movie. So I basically threatened to shut it down, but they made me go up and meet him at his Hollywood Hill, his home in the hills. You know.
I like to imagine women were just rubbing him with the
He was into his Eastern phase, and he showed up wearing some sort of Eastern tunic, you know, pajama tunic thing.
That fit your idea for the character?
Yeah. And so I had to get him. It was a courtesy meeting because I knew I wasn't going to cast him, but they had already somebody had gone on, the producers had gone on a limb and said, you better take the meeting anyway, right? So it was just me trying to give him enough rope to hang himself. So I'd say things like, now Steven, you know that scene where Riddick shaves his head, you know? And he's like, with axle grease? You're good with that, right? You know, David, I've been meaning to talk to you about that scene. A man's hair is his strength. He's like Samson if he has his hair. If he doesn't have his hair, what is he? I said, okay, so you don't want to do that? No. You know, I think people recognize the ponytail. And on and on and on. So basically, I just got out of there and said, you know, thank you, it was great meeting you, but no, it's not going to happen. So they didn't pull the plug on it, and I said, let's just cast best available actors, and I'll try to make a good movie, and hopefully that will carry the day. So, you know, I cast Robert Mitchell, I cast Cole Hauser, and Vin Diesel. He was just a guy who came in the door, you know.
He was like, hey, your head's already shaved. So.
Yeah, I mean, he looked the part, he sounded the part, he auditioned, not a great audition, because Vin is not a great auditioner, that's not his gift. He really, you know, he really truly wants to inhabit a role, and he really wants to think about it and talk about it. So, but we saw through that, and we saw something good there, and we're glad we did, very glad.
Although now I really wish that you shot like a week with Steven Seagal.
And starts Back to the Future.
Yeah, exactly. You had to replace him. Footage could be on the Blu-ray. Aww. I mean, I'm happy for you guys. That didn't happen.
But the world lost something.
We'll talk a little bit, I guess, about the now journey of Riddick, the character. As I hope everyone knows, that the movie Riddick is out tonight. I know some people who talk in the audience already saw it before seeing this.
Yeah.
As you should.
So now,
How many here have seen Riddick tonight?
Let's see some hands. All right.
wait, keep those hands up.
Good
How many
start, good
people
start.
of you have not seen Pitch Black? Wait, of the people who saw Riddick, I meant. Anyone? Okay, I was wondering if this was going to be like The Hobbit. Learning where it all began. Yeah, describe, I mean, it's kind of crazy how Riddick has endured. I heard...
What's the question?
I guess I just went, it's not really a question. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the ongoing
Obviously, like
franchise.
Vin has taken ownership of the role, and you guys have both sort of moved forward with
I heard he
sequels.
mortgaged
At what
his
point-
house.
Yeah. At what point were you like, okay, we got something here. Let's turn this into a franchise. Like, was it like the first weekend after Pitch Black opened, or was
No,
this a
not at all.
conversation
Not at all. Not
later?
at all. Pitch Black. We were just trying to get through it without dying. You know, no thoughts of a sequel then. But then Vin got noticed in Pitch Black. He got noticed from Fast and Furious. We had the opportunity to do the second one. First one was an independent movie made for $22 million. The second one was all studio, developed in the studio, a lot of input from studio people, $105 million budget. Yeah. The studio, once we spent that much money and didn't make that much money back, the studio basically said, we're out of this game. We're not going to do it anymore. So there it sat for a while. Vin was cagey enough to get the rights to Riddick back for his cameo in Fast 3. Don't pay me, just give me the rights back. Vin can be very savvy like that sometimes. And then we started to hear from the fans. We kept hearing from the fans that, look, it doesn't have to, just give us more Riddick. It doesn't have to be a big extravaganza. We just want to see Riddick doing cool shit, you know? So we said, well, we can do that. So I wrote a script. We took it down to Berlin Film Festival, where you do international sales. We sold it to the international market, had some pretty good success at that, brought it back into town, was looking for a domestic partner, somebody to distribute it here. And we thought it was going to be Sony, we thought it was going to be Film District, and then Universal raises its hand and said, well, what about us? And I said, excuse me, you were the guys who kicked us to the curb. You know? And they go, yeah, that was then, this is now. So it's a strange business, and now we're being released again by Universal Studios, which is good. It's an independent movie released by a studio. That's kind of the best of both worlds, because I have freedom to make the movie, and yet I've got that marketing machine behind me when it comes to the release. So it worked out pretty well.
Cool. Well, we definitely want to start the movie here. We also want to give you guys a chance to ask a question. Hopefully a not too spoilery question, if anyone has one. Right here.
So you talked a lot about like doing the bleach bypass work. Now have you shot stuff digitally recently, and like how do you feel that would have changed or improved the process now? Because that gives you a lot more freedom for things.
It gives you much more freedom. Of all the movies I've worked on, I've only done 2 digital movies, and one was recently a movie called Ironclad, which is a medieval film, and Riddick. Riddick was my first film shot on the digital Arri Alexa, and it was a good experience. Like I was a bit concerned about the sensitivity of the camera, and I had my concerns about shooting on the Arri Alexa, but I'll tell you what, after working with it, I would find it actually quite hard to go back to film now. And a lot of people sort of raise their eyebrows, but with the new digital cameras, the sky's the limit. We're almost there, and Riddick was shot digitally, and we achieved a similar look to the bleach bypass. Look, we could have achieved the bleach bypass. I guess originally, if we'd had enough money to do a DI, digital intermediate, which we didn't, and we did it on film. Maybe it would have been a slightly different image, but certainly the bleach bypass worked for Riddick. I don't think I would do it again, but you can do it digitally now anyway.
Right there.
Wait, what was your experience? Oh, thank you guys for coming, by the way. What was your experience working on the first Mad Max, and how did you get people to do all those stunts, like getting hit in the head with a motorcycle and
A lot of drugs.
I
I think the guys stopping the traffic were paid in little bags of green stuff. We had a lot of accidents, a lot of injuries on the movie. We were all very young. It was made in 1977. I was 27 years old, a DP operator, and it was just shooting from the hip, hard stuff. It was a long time ago.
Right there.
I noticed something when I watched Riddick tonight that John's made a comment about how long ago it was between Riddick and Pitch Black. I don't want to give it away, but if you do the math, it means that between Chronicles Riddick and Riddick was a bit longer than one might have thought. So I was wondering if that was just planned or if it was
A mistake?
Yeah.
He says, I've been tracking Riddick for 10 years, right?
Well, actually, I thought he said that what happened in Pitch Black 10 years ago.
Right, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been 13 since, you mean the release of?
No, between Pitch Black and Chronicles, Rick was supposed to go 5, 6 years, 5 years, and so
4 years.
Yeah. 4 years. No, I mean in the movie, the movie time frame.
Yeah. Well, look, I look at it this way: in space, time is fungible.
Also
Because you
going
can go
to
into
school.
cryo sleep, you see, and then your biological clock is running at a different time than other people's chronology clock. So, let's assume that he's been in cryo sleep for a good 3 years, as he traveled in pursuit of it. That's kind of what it is. I did make another mistake, though. I did make a mistake. I saw it tonight. I was watching over the Grove. We watched about half hour of the movie, and I had him say it comes from a system with Boss Johns. That character. He's saying about this planetary. He called it a planet with 2 suns, and I just remember it's actually 3 suns. You'll see it.
Way in the back there.
I'm actually a fan of your film, The Perfect Getaway.
Oh yeah.
And I was wondering if you've done a lot of sci-fi horror. Are you going to be doing anything
I would love to. I like balancing a visual effects movie like Riddick, the one in the Grove tonight. That's got about 850 visual effects shots. And by the time I do all that and bring all that home, it's like the time commitment is really 2 regular movies, 2 Perfect Getaways. So I really like Perfect Getaway just because it's kind of a filmmaker's film, you know, and it plays inside ball, you know, and it kind of winks at the camera occasionally. And you know, if you're a screenwriter or live in Los Angeles, you get a lot of the references. So I really like it, and I really like just how twisted it is. So I love doing movies like that, and I really like to do them every other time out. I don't always get the chance to, you know, chart my career that readily, but if I could, I would be doing something like Perfect Getaway every other time. Just, you know, put the visual effects behind me, because they are burdensome. Here in red.
Oh, I was wondering if there's any chance of Demon with the Glass Hand ever getting resurrected.
You know, I talked to Harlan today. Harlan Ellison, one of the great science fiction writers, fantasy writers of all time. Actually, he called me. I forgot to tell you this. He says, "Twohy, this is Harlan the Humble calling you. Wanted to know why the hell you didn't invite me to the premiere." I said, "Because you never leave the house, Harlan. You wouldn't have come." He said, "That would be for me to decide, not you." Oh, God. Harlan Ellison wrote probably the single greatest episode of Star Trek ever, City on the Edge of Forever. He probably wrote the greatest Outer Limits ever, which was Demon with the Glass Hand. He wrote a lot of other shit, too. And we are still trying to make Demon with the Glass Hand, and we may have a nibble to get that done as an independent movie. That'd be a cool movie. That'd be very cool. Well, yeah, it'd be very cool.
Let's maybe do one more question if someone's got one right there.
I love Pitch Black, and I wish this was playing close to Halloween because I usually watch it every Halloween. But I have a really quick question for David Eggby. I love Blue Streak. Was that a good production for you? And if it was, is there a good funny story that you can tell me? Because honestly, God, that's a really funny movie, and I love it.
Trying to get Martin Lawrence out of the trailer is a funny story. You know, I think he was on some sort of relaxant. You know, we'd have crew call at 6:30, and we'd get known on the set by 3 in the afternoon, and then you've got to do the whole day ahead of you. You know, it was a fun shoot. What more can I say?
Okay, wait, just one more quick one. I saw a hand way in the back there. Yeah, you.
Oh, what was your inspiration for The Arrival?
The Arrival is a movie that stars, get this, Charlie Sheen as an astrophysicist.
Ever.
And you know, we kind of pull it off. So, we come close to pulling it off. With Lindsay Krause and Ron Silver's in it. No longer with us. The inspiration for it. You know, I wanted to do an alien invasion story, but kind of smart. I was interested. We tied in global warming to that long before other movies did. It came out before, I think, it came out slightly before Independence Day, and I think we sort of got crushed by that. The inspiration for it. You know, I just wanted to write an alien invasion movie, but the inspiration was that, you know, I loved astronomy, and I would probably be an astronomer if I were not a filmmaker. So I just wanted to have a guy who was interested in exploring with radio, with a radio telescope, exploring the possibility of finding signals from other intelligent, life-bearing planets. And so I just got to play that out. And, you know, it was one of those things where Charlie Sheen is a guy who could help me cast the movie and get the movie made. And it'd be a stretch for Charlie, but, you know, he was willing to try. Right?
He's always stretching.
And we all were. You know, sometimes it's a stretch, and sometimes you find the perfect guy for the role. So, you know, it happens. But look, it was born of my love of astronomy and me trying to understand if we are alone in the cosmos, or if in fact it is more than likely as more than likely as it is, teeming with life out there.
So
I suspect
where
that.
did Warlock come from?
I don't know. The worst question you can ask a writer is where do you get your ideas from? It's just like, it is what we do if we're writers, right? It is what we do.
Find it in the trunk in your attic.
It's like, when the director says, I mean, where's that light coming from? How do you justify it? It's coming from the same place as the music,
Cool, okay, great. Let's give a hand for our guest. The Twohy, Eggby.
I think Eggby is staying. I'm going to watch about 15, 20 minutes, then head out. It's not that I hate my own movie, but I'm heading out.
I'm not going to watch it all.
Cool. Now, for those of you who